giving back to our community. And so I am here today. First time I've ever stood in anything like this. But I am here today to talk on their behalf. And I know if any of them felt strongly enough that they could stand up here, they would say the same. They need paid people that understand what they're going through to help them in those critical times whenever they're trying to figure this out. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So as a prosecutor, I'm just not here to enforce the law. I'm here to help support missions that are preventative in our community. So with that, the Richland County State's Attorney's Office, the opioid fund, we're going to bring a $44,000 request.
No, we did.
No, here,
Thank
Chelsea,
you.
hold on. Let me get a picture. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chelsea. And I do want to say Chelsea has been a big part in our council. I mean, she's a stakeholder. She comes and she hears us and just like the sheriff's office and everyone, we work with pretrial services. We've got probation. We've got like the healthcare providers. And I just want to say, sitting up here, I'm very proud of our community. I'm very proud of what, being able to take that for our Ross, because that makes us really happy. A year ago when we looked at this, we thought, what are we going to do? When we were told in June we weren't going to get funding from the state, it was like, okay, we can't let that stop us. We've got to, do something to do that. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Anybody have any more comments under it?
I was going to ask, who are the current board members of Ross?
The council members, Chief Justin Blammer, Ryan Seeker from Richland County Sheriff's Department, Janelle Adams, Rita Hatton, the stakeholder, Jamie Bell, Heather Curtis, Lisa Leonard, another stakeholder, Jasper County, Health Department, they are a stakeholder also, Heather Ackman, I hope Jamie Best from Addiction Solutions.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Let's move on to consent agenda. Somebody.
We're gonna entertain a motion to accept the.
Anybody want a second? So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
That gets us to finance. Steve?
All right, let's first on claims. The finance committee got together Tuesday to review the claims. We had a couple of small additions. I looked those over and items of great significance that it would hinder. So it was that report. Oh, right here. Right. So we have total county claims of $119,838.79 for general, and non-general, $465,534.93. Again, the finance committee reviewed sampling of those claims and approved them. I think there were just a couple of them we were going to follow up on just for clarifications, and otherwise made a motion to approve those claims. So I make a motion to go ahead and submit those claims for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
All right. The second item is the insurance renewal. I think you all received that policy. Approximately 9% increase both in our property and liability insurance and also in our workers' compensation. So I guess before I entertain or make a motion, I just want to see if the representatives have anything to say.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. I'll be brief, but I did want to just touch on a couple things. First of all, Ted and I appreciate working with you all A little bit of what I'm going to say may be a little repetitive to Steve and to Amanda. They attended our property casualty and work comp conference a couple of weeks ago. I do want to touch on a couple of trends that the insurance market generally is really tough right now. I see it in my homeowner's policy. You probably do too. It's not unusual to see 15% increases. Reinsurance is really tough right now due to construction materials, law enforcement liability. The jury awards are getting higher and higher. There are a few positive things. The workers' comp market is largely pretty stable right now. We haven't seen that in a while. The auto liability continues to get worse and worse, partially due to the deer hits that are in downstate Illinois. A lot of it has to do with the cost of the vehicles and the electronics that are included, the sensors and so forth. But overall, I think the county is doing pretty well. I want to express my thanks to all of the office holders that helped us go through the policy, particularly the sheriff's department and the highway department. They, of course, have the lion's share of the vehicles. We did work on some building updates. We've got the health office in a new location, a few other things. There aren't any deductible changes this year. I think we've got a total of 46 vehicles in the fleet, so it's a lot to insure. On a positive note is the county's work comp experience modifier. I did check on that. It's 0.83. So a 1.0 would be even. So you want to be below 1. And so we're doing pretty well there. I did ask the office before coming tonight, are there any outstanding claims issues we need to be aware of? We do have a couple, 3 open claims that we're tracking, but nothing of great concern right now, nothing to bring to the board's attention. But as always, if you all, any of the department heads have any concerns, don't hesitate to give us a call. The unemployment insurance renewal is also included. It's a very good rate. Typically, the county saves between $5,000 and $10,000 versus going through the state of Illinois Department of Employment Security. The state charges what they call a building fund, which amounts to another 0.5% on the tax on wages that you pay for your employees. So, as Steve said, overall, the policy is up about 8.9%. Throughout our block of clients, we have about 45 property clients. The overall increase this year was about 10.5%. So you guys are a little bit better than average. It's hard for me to come in front of a board or a council and state that, you know, a 9% increase is great, but given the insurance market we're in, it's better than average. Do you all have any questions for us? Anything that we need to follow up on? Once again, we appreciate you all, appreciate the department heads keeping things on track for us. Thank you.
All right, so kind of follow up, again, the premiums for these are primarily paid out of our tax levy, and so it doesn't impact our tax levy. We do have the other thing that we have to are obligated for as far as the county is any of the deductibles, and we are pay at least 2 deductibles out of the liability fund, our liability fund this year for the deductibles on cars for some of the SUV incidences we had. So, but we have some, or we have sufficient funds. But again, historically, what we've tried to do is match the premiums to property tax levy for the next year. So this might come up again in our tax levy discussion tonight. But otherwise, I enter a motion to approve their policy for the December 1st, 25 through December 1st, 26.
So move. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Yeah. So, Jim, you want to go ahead and go into the budget?
Might as well.
All right. You all have your budgets, or a copy of the budgets. And again, just kind of a quick overview. Again, this is a tentative budget. I will be asking for making a motion to go ahead and enter the budget, make it available for public review. It has to be open to the public for at least 15 days from the notice that they can review it. And so I would like to go ahead and I'll be making that motion to see if we can get that to public review. And then at our November meeting, we can go ahead and make changes to the budget. So if I know Zach has indicated that he would like to meet with the full board at our November meeting. So we can go ahead and make changes even after the public review. Bellwether at one of our UCCI meetings said that even though we've gone through public review, that we can still make changes and adjustments to the budget after the public review. And so once it's open for public review and we have comments or we see changes that need to be made, we can make those at the November meeting. And my plan is, again, to finalize that budget for approval at our November meeting. Again, the Finance Committee has met 2 or 3 times, had discussions outside of that, had some discussions with some of the officers about the budgets. One comment I do want to make, one of the things that was taken into consideration is that even though our sales and income taxes, which consist of our 2 primary revenue sources for general funds, there just seems to be some concern as to whether our increases will continue. I've been kind of reading and kind of trying to keep track of how the state is doing on their sales and income tax. So while personal income tax receipts have been going up, recent news article that I had that was a couple weeks ago, the Hometown Journal had an article from Springfield on their finances, and they're saying that personal income tax receipts are down 1%, and corporate tax receipts are down 21% so far this year, which will have an impact on our future revenues. Another statement that was in a report from the budget office of the state of Illinois, the comment that they made in one of their reports, if I can find it here, they were looking at, again, sales taxes, which again is this year, turning out to be one of our largest revenues for general corporate. The state budget's office said, while nearly 3% growth seen in the second half of the year, which would be their fiscal year ends in 2025, offers some optimism, it remains to be seen whether this upward trend will continue into fiscal year 2026. Now, in the budget that we presented, we did show a slight increase in sales tax and income tax, but again, our concern is that we're concerned that may be overly optimistic. I think what we're suggesting is that some of these changes, that we did make some adjustments to some of the budgets. But if the first quarter looks fairly good, that we continue to show increases in sales taxes and income taxes, we might be more open to making upward changes to the office budgets. And so, at least for this budget that we're presenting, we tried to look at reducing some of the expenditures, but if the year turns out to be better than what we were expecting, then we'll try to set into budget where we can make changes and maybe bring some of those requests back. When we originally got the requested budgets from the office holders and the initial revenue forecast, we were looking at a $500,000 loss. for the year. Again, the finance committee felt that that was not something we wanted to do. We basically have about $2 million in reserves in the general fund. If we take out the property taxes that we're going to be receiving or have received this year, that technically should be applied to next year. And so we wanted to work to reduce that. And so after working through the budgets and our meeting in the finance committee, we arrived at, after increasing some of the revenues, because we had saw that we needed to potentially increase some revenues, particularly potentially with school resource officers and some other revenues. We increased the revenues by 189,000. And we decreased expenses, budgeted expenses by 171,000, and receiving some transfers from accumulated reserves from special revenue funds that would bring our deficit down, projected deficit down to $124,000. So even though we're still looking at a deficit that would have to be funded from prior year reserves, we felt that that was much more doable, and that again, that would be something we could track and be able to fund that from prior year reserves. So that was so that concludes what we're presenting here tonight. Public safety, again, that's basically funded by sales taxes. Again, originally looking at originally we were looking at a small gain, and then we were looking at maybe some increased expenses, but then we ended up with some expenses dropping. So we were looking at maybe, and then hopefully getting about 20,000 from court security fund. That we were looking at maybe a small loss, basically a break even for the public safety fund. All the remaining special revenue funds are funded by specific fees or funds from other programs that usually, if they don't have the funds available in those special revenue funds, then we're not obligated to fund those. So are there any questions on any of the departments or budgets and the budget in general that we submitted for review?
My concerns, which is a hot topic this evening, is the 708 budget. Because looking back to 2021, that total budget was 150, and the 25 request or 26 request is 362, for an increase of 212 in those 4 or 5 years. Not saying it's not needed, not wanted, but it's a significant increase. I mean, it's their budget alone is more than the sheriff's, state's attorney, or sorry, the only budgets that are higher than those is the sheriff, state's attorney, highway, TB, 911. It's like that's one of the largest funds. And when it's like broken down, I mean, it's not under the budget itself, it's not broken down really well on where that's going. Over the last several years, it's kind of just gotten lumped into one line of at large. So I'm not per se against that line, but it has grown substantially in the last several years, and it weighs a heavy burden on the tax levy as well. So just my 2 cents.
I will comment that the reason why we put 362,000 in there would be our maximum levy if that were so approved. But again, we will only be able to actually spend what we receive in the tax levy. So depending again what we agree to on the tax levy, that's all we'll be able to spend. Discuss that more, the tax levy. But for budgeting purposes, I just put in the max. Our levy allows us to go up to 0.1%, which would be about 362,000 if we levied the max. realistically, I don't expect this board to approve the max. But again, we've put in some amounts there, again, for at least 3 presentations on our needs. So I put that forth. One option, I guess it will mention one option that we could consider, at least for the ROSC. Again, they're asking for a one-time only an amount. Rather than funding that through 708, we could go ahead and add that line item to our general corporate fund and make that change. And again, it would be coming out accumulated reserves. So again, we don't have the current funds to pay for that, but could, as an option, if the rest of the board felt that that was a worthy program to fund, since they're only needing funding basically for 1 year, we could create a special line item out of the general corporate for 1 year. That's really the only place where we could get that, because none of the other funds, other than, and I don't think, again, public safety, I possibly could argue that it could come out of public safety, but we're operating break in public safety as well. It has about $500,000 reserves. So that would be an option as well. So yes, it's a significant amount as far as who we pay.
Did you mention the number that the ROSC is asking for?
74,000.
74. That's on top of the 44.
Yes. Like I said, they need about 150,000, and right now they haven't received any state funding. They have received some, as I understand it, they've received some personal donations to fund the difference, but they need from mental health or from the county, either through mental health or otherwise, 74,000, or would like to receive 74,000. But in the past, our 2025 budget for mental health, as we've talked about that, we paid Jasper County 100,000 for their services. They do counseling throughout the county, and also work with the police department or the sheriff's department. Is that right? And the jail system. So we've been funding them. Their request this year was 120,000. The community support systems, which works with disabled adults, we've paid them 60,000, and they've increased their request to 65,000. And they work with disabled adults, both mentally and physically.
And that's at the old Save Lot building, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Pardon? Community support systems.
Yeah, two towns.
But they, the services here.
Right.
They've done it for years.
What's it, Save a Lot? The old Save a Lot.
That is CTS.
Okay,
Thank you.
close.
Yeah.
Again, we also have supported Family Matters, which works through St. Joe and works with the disabled children through there at St. Joe. Was 23,000. They've actually reduced their request to 19,000. 2026.
Only at St. Joe?
Yes. They don't go to the other private schools, do they?
Well, they're supposed to, it's supposed to be open to everybody.
Okay,
Including those.
okay. Thank you. One Hope United, we've been funding them 8,000 a year for, they provide services in this county. They need 8,000 for as basically a grant, their share of the grant that they apply for. Then 15,000 for Swan to help them in their support. So we were looking at, in the past, it requested 275, and we were going to spend about, there was 5,000 for, we were In the process, we're working through Richland County Health Office to distribute resource booklets that we can hand out or that they can hand out that are basically report or give the contact information for a lot of resources. Again, one would argue, why are we doing that when it can be online? That's true, but we wanted at least an initial distribution, thought it would be wise to get an initial distribution of booklets that we could hand out to the churches, to the contacts, just so they have something hard copy available, and then we're providing a QR code where they can get more recent information inside that booklet. But we had budgeted 5,000 for that. So really, we had, at least for the 25 year, we're planning on spending 271,000. There was one organization, Prevail CASA, which did sexual abuse counseling, which we had partially funding during the year, but we determined that after heard that they were having some reorganization issues, so we ended up only funding half of approximately 60,000 or 30,000. So the plan was to continue the funding for most of the other organizations, and then basically add a one-time funding request of 74,000 to help with the Ross funding. So we were asking for an increase. We'll be asking for an increase in our tax levy, but again, that's subject to board approval. So that's kind of answer your question. And again, we'll be submitting the tax levy for review tonight. And if it's, I guess we're going to try to determine whether or not we want a truth in taxation hearing or not. So we'll be discussing that and then making our final approval of the tax levy as again at our November meeting. I do have one change. I know Corey wanted to suggest a change. If you look at your budgets, we moved a lot of the heavier capital equipment purchases to a different group, fund grouping, the 0124 grouping, which is basically under the miscellaneous. And let me explain that because we did add some big numbers to that. This is on page 16. Yeah, in the past, that miscellaneous had just included solid waste and our where we had put the just some miscellaneous minor stuff, and we felt that because of the deficit, we wanted a little bit more control over the timing and being able to track equipment, large equipment expenditures for the future. And so we basically, after Corey's presentation on what he foresaw as IT equipment needs for the county, we added 49,930 to this particular fund rather than the IT budget. We were trying to keep the IT budget strictly as an operational without the equipment, and then put all the equipment in here or in our what I hope to have is a capital projects fund for future funding. So we put in here the 2026 IT funding of 49,930. Corey indicated that he would like to maybe at least have $1,500 of that in his budget, so that in case that a server goes down, he doesn't have to wait for our approval to expend that. He would have authority to go ahead and replace that. So I will be making I don't know if we want a group of motions or just one motion at the end. How do you want to handle that?
So,
If I may,
Okay.
the alternative to that was keeping where it's at, the understanding that if I did maintenance on the servers, six, that I could take that action and follow up with the IT. So that's subject to the board.
I make the motion with the changes stated.
Okay, that changes. So I will be including that as taking $1,500 out of that line item, and moving it back to the IT budget. Then also, again, based on what the court provided us, that we've got several future needs that we need to start planning for. And so he outlined those to the finance committee. I think those all went out to the rest of the board. Plus, we do have the IT committee is reviewing that. And so what we wanted to do is start funding for those future capital expenditures. I mean, we're looking at significant turnover. And again, IT is a very critical part, not only for the courthouse, but also for the sheriff's department. And so we wanted to start setting aside funds into a separate fund, the capital projects fund, so that we start building up some funds. And so when those equipment changes are needed, that we'll have available funds readily available in the capital projects fund to do that. And Corey was very good at providing us a timeline and a year when he thought those projects would be needed. And so basically is asking for us to fund monies on a year-to-year basis. And then as those new IT projects become needed to upgrade, as the funds are readily available and doesn't have to look for a deep dive into budgets or anything like that. The other thing was the squad car. Again, we've talked about trying to get a squad car every year, and so we moved the 75,000 squad car from the sheriff's department to here, again, to allow us to kind of monitor that, and again, if determining how track our revenues and if determine when a good time would be to expend those funds. I know he needs it now, but again, this gives us at least control over maybe the timing of that and also being able to track it from year to year. And also the capital projects fund, which we're also submitting for review. We're going to try to start budgeting at year to year purchase out of the capital projects fund for the squad cars. Finally, Andrea had requested 5,000 for a power washer. Again, we're putting that under our budget, again, to track the need and the timing in this.
Real quick on that one.
Sure.
Didn't we just get one like 2 years ago?
A couple of years ago, but it's needing some work. So again, that's why I put it here. I didn't, something that the Public Safety Committee is going to have to review with her. And so since it's here, we're not saying you can get it immediately. It's going to have to come through public safety recommendation to this full board.
Because I feel like I remember paid a hefty bit for it, rewired the building for it.
That's why we moved it here. We wanted to.
Discuss that need. Now, the other thing, that the big number on there is 400,000. And again, we felt that we wanted to create a line item for loans, particularly to the Road and Bridge Fund, because they've got, in talking to Danny, they've got several big projects forthcoming. Most of those he feels he was going to be able to fund most of those from his MFT, FAS, and state funding. But there is a concern, and Danny doesn't think there might be a concern, but there could be a concern, whereas timing. A lot of times we have to front the monies for these expenditures, and then the state come back later and then reimbursing for those funds. In the past, the state has been good about turning that around right away, but they have been known to hold out making those reimbursements on a timely basis. And so we basically wanted to set up a mechanism is that if Road and Bridge needs some additional funds, borrow some additional funds, that we can go to the general corporate fund. Again, we're sitting on a decent reserve right now, so as long as it's considered a loan and not an actual outlay or transfer, we should be able to provide that support so that that doesn't interfere with and give Danny headaches and trying to figure out how he's going to fund a project that he knows that there's money out there to be reimbursed. So that 400,000, we've got a 400,000 here, but that's part of our increase. When you look at our big increase in revenues, that includes a 400,000 payback on the loan. So a lot of that, really the only revenue changes that we made, specific revenue, were 189,000. The other 400,000 is coming from basically to offset the loan being made here and then the offsetting payment. Could always run into a problem where if these projects happen at the end of the year, it might create kind of a imbalance, short-term imbalance between fiscal years, but hopefully that won't happen. So did I summarize that correctly? Okay. So that was a big change in that particular fund category. The other thing I want to point out too, there were several funds that appeared in our audit that we were not seeing any activity, or the only place they were showing up was in our treasurer's report. We were only seeing a cash balance. We were not seeing any activity yet until the audit report was completed. And so I want to change that and start work toward getting the transaction reports like we get now. Again, these are all special revenue funds. They're funded from other sources. And so even though funds don't come from the general fund and some of these are under the sheriff's control or other officers' control, we still are responsible for county-wide activities. And since they do show up in our report, I feel that we ought to at least get regular reports on the activity in these particular funds. Some of them are fairly small, some of them are a little bit more significant. So in back of page 59, 59 and 60, 61, and 62, you'll see those funds that were not listed in previous years. And so by basically approving a budget for them, at least we'll be able to see those and kind of track those. Again, we don't have a whole lot of say, because there are special revenue funds and some of these are set up either through ordinance or through statute. So they're pretty well set as to what their purposes are, but I wanted to get those in this report and also start tracking those on a regular basis through our regular reports. So that's something new. The other thing that was added didn't show up on our budget, but we've been doing it for every year, is a public building commission rent. Again, we signed a new agreement with them last year where our rent is $200,000 that we pay them, but again, that's funded through property taxes with the similar amount, $200,000. So I wanted to get that at least in the budget report because it is an obligation that we do pay to another entity. So I think that's kind of the highlights. So other than that one change, I don't know if we have any other changes at this time. Again, we can make final changes in November. Again, I know Zach has some questions and comments that need to come to our November meeting. I don't know if the board has any other changes or questions that they have, either to me or to the rest of the finance committee. Not in here again. The only place unless we know of a special revenue, we haven't set up anything. I don't know if there's a tax or something we could assess, but again,
The city has a tourism tax, like hotels and Airbnb type thing that can only be used for tourism type stuff. I don't know what would we spend money on that particular stuff, I guess. Did you have an idea of something?
But
we do have, I will mention, we do have a contingency fund as well, where it's basically the state or the statutes allow us to have a contingency fund. We've not had I shouldn't say contingency fund, a contingency line item. We've not set that up in the past. We can set up to a 5% of our total general fund expenditures as a contingency. We did set up a line item in that same 0124 fund this year for contingency, so that if we do need to make budget changes, if the year looks like it's coming in better than expected and we feel that we have some additional funds, this then would allow us to consider spending those funds, because once we set the budget, we can only decrease, we can't increase. So this gives us a mechanism that if either a particular office, program, whatever wants to make a change and increase their budget, this will now allow us to do that without having another public hearing to amend our budget upwards. Statutes do allow us to amend the budget downward if there is a change in revenues or a drop in revenues. We can drop budget items without a public hearing, but we cannot increase our expenditures, overall expenditures, unless we have another public hearing. So we felt that we wanted to go ahead and add that line item in there so that if an office, or again, determine that we have more revenues than anticipated, that we do have a mechanism to amend the budget using that contingency line item to make that change. I'll stop. If anybody else says anything.
I don't have any questions.
Well, seeing none, then I will make a motion to approve this budget for public inspection, subject to the only change of moving $1,500 from the 0124 account to the IT account.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passed.
All right. So we don't. We've done that. Okay, we don't need a special meeting then, so we're good there. But item D, we will drop. Item E, review the tax. Oh, the budget. I do say, okay, let me back up here. We're done with C. There is a capital budget that we need to discuss. Let me get my paperwork for that. Sorry. You have up to 2 budgets to approve here. In the past, again, we funded most of our capital projects out of just our general fund revenues. And again, seeing that our funds were tight, seeing that we do have accumulated reserves that basically are sitting undesignated in our general fund. Last year in our 2025 budget, we did designate $450,000 to transfer to a capital projects fund. And basically the capital projects fund is a fund that the statute allows us to set up to provide for future funding of capital projects. The funding can come from general funds. Some counties will assess additional tax. I'm not proposing that. I'm basically saying that we should look to funding this with funds from the general fund, possibly the public safety fund, and set aside funds for future projects. And so I sent you out a worksheet and a proposed budget for the capital projects fund. We've not yet made the transfer out of general fund for the $450,000. Really, I want to hold that off until our November meeting, where we will find out for sure, have a much better idea where we will end up for the end of the fiscal year. But if things go as planned, from what I can see, that we're seem to be in better shape than was originally thought that we would be for 2025. I will be making a motion to approve the $450,000 or so transfer to this capital projects fund for at the end of 2025 to fund future projects for 2026 and beyond. If you will, so the first page of this worksheet that was sent out for the capital projects budget basically we're looking at a transfer of 450,000, assume that happens and you approve this budget, that money will, that or an approximate amount of money will go into the capital projects fund. We'll be getting, then it'll be entered in as a separate account. And we started looking at what our needs were for 2026. Again, Corey, as I'd mentioned in that 0124, we're setting aside funds for future IT projects. And so basically we're transferring approximately 53,000, or 50, I guess about 51,000, excuse me, of general funds with the idea of funding those future IT projects. So we're setting aside those funds so that we have monies available when those projects come due. And if you look on page 2, we've kind of listed, at least for the first 5 years, where some of that potential funding should go or could go. Again, this is under county board control, and so we control the timing of when that can be done. And so really for this first year, 2026, assuming we get the full 450,000 transferred, we're looking at some of these proposed projects. And again, we can make modifications to the individual line items of these items. These are just items that we are looking at potentially funding for 2026. But if we determine that something comes out that's up during the year, and maybe we don't need we've got 50,000 for a salt bunker. Maybe we determine that it can be paid out of the Public Building Commission, and we don't need that 50,000 for that. Then we can allocate that 50,000 elsewhere, because we're budgeting in total of 253,000 for the 2026 year. So we've listed some particular projects for that. One of the things that Danny has indicated that he needs that would really assist him in his road and bridge is $40,000 for a pothole patch trailer. With the current one that we have is had been basically patched together, and it's not really efficient. With the purchase of a new pothole patch trailer, he estimated about a $40,000 cost. He felt it would be much more efficient and much more extend its useful life and extend the ability to use it in colder weather. And so we put that item in there. Again, he's mentioned that we need a salt bunker. The present bunker that holds the salt and sand is in not very good shape. He's estimated that we could, Jasper County put a salt bunker together, basically using those large concrete bunker, what do you call those?
Bunker blocks.
Bunker blocks.
Locked together, kind of like Legos, then put a hoop building on that.
Yeah. So Jasper County, they spent about 50,000 to put something that together. And again, we put it here because basically the county board can decide later if they want to actually make that expenditure. These are items that we foresee that we could use in 2026. So we provided a list of 253,000 and then looked at the future, and you can see we've got a squad car, start putting the squad car on there. And again, we've allocated some of the what IT is needing for their future funding. Again, their first big expenditure, Corey estimates it's a need in 2025 for 35,000. Again, part of that funding that we're wanting to transfer in will take care of that. So we want to try to start utilizing that. So if we end up with the better than estimated year for this year, we could always consider a budget for 2026 to add some more to that. So again, we could hopefully either fund from general fund, or if we have some actually a positive in the general fund, or positive possibly in the public safety fund, we could transfer those excess funds in here and again set those funds aside for specific purposes. So basically, I entertain any questions, and I'll make a motion to approve our 2025 or 2026 budget for the capital projects fund. So If there are no questions, I make a motion that we approve the 2026 budget for the capital projects.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
All right, now for the more difficult one. The 2026 levy. I think I sent out a worksheet that has basically a calculation of the levy. I got from Kim the estimated assessed valuation for 2026, and then looking at what we can do for the suggested levies. Again, just kind of briefly go through that. County corporate, we can extend a maximum rate of 0.27. That's what we've been doing for several years. We've requested the max with an equalized assessed valuation of 364 million. If we go again to the maximum 0.27, that would be 984,000. IMRF, you'll notice that took a big jump. In years past, we had accumulated a lot of funds in IMRF, and because of that, our rates were a lot lower than anticipated. Plus, found out that one of the reasons why it built up a big increase is that when RMH went to Carl, that there were a lot of accumulated IMRF funds set aside because they were originally IMRF employees. And when they converted to Carl, they went off the IMRF program, and that created a big surplus within our own fund of IMRF. And so we had a significant amount of funding there that was just not growing, and we've had historically very good rates with IMRF, historically low rates. And so we purposely reduced our IMRF to a much smaller amount in years past. And we started raising it next year because basically our IMRF costs continue to go up, but our fund balance is beginning to get low. And the plan was basically we would start increasing our IMRF funding so that at some point in time, we'd have a small reserve in the IMRF fund, much like our FICA fund. And then our IMRF levy would equal our IMRF estimated outgo. So right now, our expense to the IMRF is a lot higher than what we're wanting to levy. But at some point in time, we need to increase our levy to match the expense. And the plan is to use up the reserves, get it down to maybe a $50,000 or so reserve balance that we would carry over year to year, and then match the levy with the estimated IMRF expense. So looking at the program that we've anticipated, we've estimated that we need to increase that to 95,000 to start building toward matching the IMRF expense and outlay. And so even at 95,000, we estimate our IMRF expense to be this year, which is included in the budget. That here. We estimated our expense to be approximately 218,000. At some point in time, if the stock market takes a dive or whatever, we could be assessed with a lot more. So we're about 120,000 short this year. And so again, the plan was last year we started building that fund up 25 to 50,000 a year. So at some point in time it matches. And so again, we felt we needed 95,000 there. And we're unlimited, so we can assess what we need through IMRF. County highway, we're at 0.1 assessed valuation or tax levy, and we've always requested the max. And so if we requested the max again, which again, sitting down with Danny and looking at his budget, and looking at our future needs there in capital and projects, we felt that we needed to go ahead and assess the max there, 364,000. Same way with bridge, 182,000, we've been assessing the max. And again, we're assessing the max here. And again, one of the things that basically is a variable is mental health. Again, the 294,000 that we're listing here basically is increased basically to cover the one-time increase in what ROSC is asking for this year to cover their startup, basically their startup costs to get that program going. Again, we're looking at for this year, what makes up that 294, we're looking at 120,000 to Jasper County Health Department. They felt they ran a little bit short this year, and so they didn't have wanted to raise it slightly because their program cost had increased. And again, they were looking at questionable funding, so they wanted to have some additional funding to cover what they foresee as shortfalls in their state and federal funding. We requested a little bit of increase to community support systems of 65,000 for their costs. We reduced the Family Matters to 19,000. They had reduced their request, so their request for this year was 19,000. One Hope United maintained their request at 8,000. Swan kept their request at 15,000. We've added the 74,000 of what the ROSC was. And then Prevail, again, we did not set aside anything for them because, again, I think they're going through reorganization and did not put in a formal request. So we're looking at potentially spending 301,000. We have a little bit of reserve that we carry over. We thought if we could get the 294, that should be able to provide funding there. Now, again, I place as an option that 74,000 since it is a one-time funding. I would like to, I'm not a big fan of digging into our reserves because at some point in time, I don't want to get for repeats continuing to put us into a big deficit. But since there is a one-time funding, if we want to look at amending the general corporate budget and adding that line item in, that would be an option. So that would reduce our request from 294 down to 224 or 220. That would be something that I guess we could consider. TB Care, again, their request been $5,000. Basically, we've been paying, requesting that levy for the past several years. And again, we heard from the health office that their needs are much greater, but unfortunately, the TB Care is only to be used for TB. And their needs are for mental health, whatever else. And so I think the county needs to look on seeing how we could provide additional funding there. Federal aid match is again for road and bridge. Again, we requested the max of that again as well. That helps support Denny's programs. Again, currently road and bridge doesn't get any general revenue funds. They're currently funded through their own tax levy and MFT funds, MFT and FAS funds. The other next items there, liability insurance. Again, what we've tried to do is put in our requests there, the 281, 5, and 82. We were short last year on what we had levied for paying the premiums, which we just approved for 2026. I will tell you, and the reason why I reduce that under this next column over, again, we do have some accumulated reserves in that particular fund. Not a lot. I think we've got maybe around 130, 140,000 that we've accumulated that we could reduce. Again, in the past, we've tried to use this to match what our premiums are and factor in an increase. But we could potentially reduce that, use up some of our reserves, and then unfortunately bump it up again the following year because again those reserves are used for any deductibles that we have to pay. We've been fortunate, we've only had 2 car deductibles, but if we were to have a issue with a tornado coming through and tearing up a roof or tearing up a building where we had one of our higher deductibles kicked in, we would look to this fund to help pay for that. So I want us to be cautious there as far as what we would reduce that amount to. In the soil and water, we budgeted $1,500 for the past several years and would continue doing that. Social Security, again, it's unlimited. Again, based on our calculation of what our Social Security would be for next year, we're looking at $387,000. That fund's been running tight. We always start running tight toward the end of the year, and it's been concerned that we might have to temporarily fund their shortfalls until we got our first property tax installment. So we're trying to build that fund up a little bit so it carries a little bit more reserves, so we don't have to look at funding that with future property tax levies. The Extension Associate Education, $65,000. Again, that's been the request in years past, so that's maintaining their funding. Ambulance is $425,000. Again, that's based on the agreement that we currently have. I would not be surprised if at some point in time they come back to us and request more, or say that they're going to reduce their services, which they did this past year. But at this point in time, we're maintaining that commitment of $425,000 to them. And so that would make up at least the initial request of $3,353,920, which is an increase of 8.34. If we were to agree to that, it would require a truth and taxation hearing. The Public Building Commission, for whatever reason, the statutes don't require that to be entered into the calculation, but it's not increasing. There's a slight increase because our rent is $200,000. They didn't request the full $200,000 last year, but our rent is $200,000, so I went ahead and entered in the amount for the rent. So our overall increase on this first column is 7.60%, which is, if you look down further, if we were going to try to stay under the 5%, it's about, we'd have to cut the above amounts by about $104,000. My recommendation is going to be that we go ahead and submit that first column, go ahead and call a truth and taxation hearing, and then make our final determination after we receive public input at our November meeting, if we're going to make any cuts. But again, I will then now yield to the board for their comments. Any questions?
This doesn't have to be approved till the last Tuesday in December, is that right?
I have to have the levy last Tuesday.
Which I feel if we approve it in December or November, then we wouldn't have to call well, I think we still do have to call a special meeting anyway in November, don't we? End of November to pay final claims.
Yeah, we usually do.
So if at the latest, I would like to hold it off till that final claims meeting if we're going to approve it then, but I don't really want to get to December. That was just too tight. But again, if we want to see how the year end is up, I guess that would be a possibility. But again, we do have sufficient reserves, so I just want to get this out of the way and approved and formalized. Again, I don't want to have I hate seeing that increase. I wish I could decrease it. I would like to see a decrease, but when we're looking at potential decreases in our sales and income tax, that's just a concern. And this is really we don't have much say over our other revenue sources. This is really the only one that we have some control over. But again, I want to take the public's concerns into consideration. I know that we're asking a lot of the public, but our costs are increasing. The funds have got to come from somewhere. So, all right, I'll shut up. I've got to go to the restroom, so excuse me.
I wouldn't mind waiting till the budget gets officially approved. Cause that way we know what is truly needed. I know Steve wants to be well ahead of it, but I think it's logical to wait till, I mean, we're waiting for 15 days now for the budget delay. And then come back in November to change or finalize it. And then I think we base this off
This goes off of that.
approved budget.
Yeah.
And, cause I'm not a fan of 6.3% to begin with, so. I know Steve's wanting to get ahead of the curve and everything, which is awesome, but I think we got plenty of time, cause it's not till late December.
Well, and depending on what we do with the budget, this might change some, so,
Mhm.
yes, and it does make sense to wait.
A motion to table it while Steve's gone.
Go for it.
Are you gonna move that? Morgan, I will second it.
Go to the door. Steve, yes or no?
Steve, we have news.
Can we wait on this till we approve the budget to see if we need to make any changes and then do this?
Well, we're up for a timeline. You got some presentation.
What is the timeline?
Let's see, truth and taxation meeting notice, meeting no earlier than 7 days, not later than 14 days, for our approval. So,
Instant approval, right? It's,
Right.
if it's the last Tuesday of December, we don't have to let it delay for,
So we have to do, so you're saying we have to do this before we approve the budget?
yes,
Uh,
well, approve the tax levy.
okay.
We have to, the budget has to be available 15 days before we approve it.
Yes.
So since we've approved it, I mean, it's gonna go out and set, so we'll be able to approve the budget, in November. Since we've already approved it for going out for public inspection, and we can make changes in November. Don't need to have it a public notice, but truth and taxation does require, no later than 14 days, so I mean, we'll have to,
no, what is no later than 14 days?
so we've got to basically give them 14 days notice,
At least, or that's the maximum?
no earlier, see, meeting no early, I always have to, meeting no earlier than 7 days. Because I had, basically, if we followed my original plan, we would do a truth and taxation notice, send it out October 13th, so that we could have the meeting October 27th, so basically 14 days. We need 14 days, so if we went ahead and waited till November, what date is that?
And they've got to be business days because we ran into that with the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And 13th is.
Let's see if I can find it.
So we can't schedule it at over 14 days? Is that what I'm hearing?
Let me look. I've got-
Because theoretically,
Well, the 7 to 14 day window is because you have to publish it in the newspaper.
what I'm thinking is postponing this till November meeting.
Right.
Say we pass it November 2nd, Thursday. And it is over that 5. What if, can we schedule that meeting today? In case? Or is that
Yeah.
too much?
No, we could
Well,
schedule it, cancel it.
that.
Yeah,
You can always cancel it, can't you?
I assume.
Well,
Your meeting in November is a little late because it's the 13th, because the first is on the Saturday, so.
but if we wait until December to approve,
Right.
So if we go ahead and pass it, and then discuss the tax levy and then put it out, if it's still over where we need a truth in taxation hearing, we could then approve it in December,
Right.
at a December meeting. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, that was what we were,
Yeah, 'cause
yeah.
when you're gone, we were talking about, kind of like to see the budget after it lays and gets a final approval to decide on these numbers.
Well, I think that would work. I just wanted to get it behind me.
Right.
I think if we hold off until December, because I was trying to get everything done by the end of the fiscal year. But since this is not due in your hands until,
Last Tuesday of December.
yeah, so
2030th.
I think we were running late last year.
Yes, last
Through
year.
budgets and everything else, too late. That was my fault for not getting it on quick enough. So I'm trying to stick to my deadline, but if this is the only thing we've got to look at in December, and it still would meet what Amanda needs, and I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So you want to postpone this?
Yes, till next month.
Somebody make a motion?
I moved postpone definitely till the
Second.
November meeting.
Okay, got a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
By, or something. Website posting requirement is. Requirement, that water is on the website for days.
Dang website.
Is that the same, like if we don't have a full-time person?
Yeah,
The Attorney General said if we don't have a full-time person designated
Let me look it up,
to,
thinking like an extension.
they said the RIT guy does not
yeah.
care.
It's
I think we,
full-time
that now.
employee maintained website.
We could schedule a meeting now.
I believe you're in.
I mean, his specific, this was at our conference and they
Yeah,
said
it's open.
RIT guy is not, it has to be a specific person that just maintains. There's a loophole.
Well, if we go ahead and schedule it.
let's just schedule it.
Schedule it, cancel it, so I don't need it after the
Yeah.
November meeting.
So do you want to do it the week following the board meeting?
Could you? Okay, so
Yes.
November 13th, pass it.
Or do you want to do it the day after the board meeting, just to get it done? Just-
I'm thinking, could it be the same day as the board meeting? Do we have to approve? Do we have to approve a 6% increase and then have it, or we're like, hey, might be a 6% increase? That makes sense.
Well, we've got to approve it, and we've got to,
Yeah,
then it's got to be
gotta be
available for
published.
inspection after we finally give.
The
what it's gonna
levies have to be?
I mean, if we're gonna, we have to approve a levy first, and then we've got to put it out there for the public to see for at least 14 days, I would think.
or 30.
I thought that was the notice of the hearing.
It's a proposed increase. And it has to be approved after the truth in taxation hearing. Because the notice that you have to give says the proposed levy for increases by such and such percent and such amount. But it's all subject to the board's approval after the truth in taxation. That's the point of the hearing, that
So,
the public can come in and convince the board to
not,
Yeah.
or more.
Or raise it, maybe can this is.
So here's,
well, the truth in taxation notice has to be the maximum. You can lower it, but it can't be any
about
higher than what is published in the notice.
So I think if we wait until November, we would set the final rate, and then we have to give them 14 or 30 days. It has to be available to the public to see, and then we can have our public hearing or truth of taxation hearing after that date. So it'll have to be at least, if we approve it the 13th, it'll have to be probably sometime in April, which, again, if we get our dates quite right, then we just need to have the truth of taxation hearing right before our December board meeting. That sounds right, Kevin? If we posted it, then we just need our final meeting has to be just, it can be any time after. We could have a truth and taxation hearing meeting on the board meeting day of December 11th and approve it right then and there. Because we've given them the notice, we've heard the public comments. And then if we want to make any changes, we would make it on that same day. So our truth and taxation meeting could be on the 11th at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
That should give us the,
That'll give you the window.
if we don't,
Might make it a little earlier.
So if you get enough public people that says they don't want it, then what do you do?
you could always drop it. At that point in time, we drop it.
Trim $104,000 out
I
of
think
it.
that's what we ought to do anyhow.
If that's what you, I mean, just, if that's what you wanna do, I mean.
We just voted to postpone it, so we're just sitting it dead right now.
Yeah.
You made a motion in a second.
You didn't
Yeah,
officially.
voted.
The gavel.
You made a motion in a second.
For what?
Motion in a second, vote, Bill.
You voted? Did I miss that one?
For the postponement of
Yes,
the,
with postponement.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you officially didn't call the, because Corey interrupted before the nays.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
He saved it.
So anyway, if I'm understanding and I've got my dates set, if we set a public hearing, truth and taxation, schedule that date for December 11th at 5:30, plan on that. So that when we look at this again on November 13th, that should give us the adequate number of days.
30,
Uh,
that's a great.
So it's postponed to November and we'll tentatively set a truth and taxation date at December 11th. Does that sound right?
Yes.
I'll make that motion, just to get that on the calendar.
At 5:30, you said, what time?
5:30, the tentative truth and taxation meeting for December 11th. At 5:30. Location to be announced. I hear we had a courtroom, but
Yeah, it was upstairs.
Sorry there.
Probably not, because I think I tried to record it for you, but failed. Well, I didn't have the correct thing for my recorder.
so I can,
Okay. So
I made the
you
motion.
made the motion. Looking for a
No, one
second.
second.
A second,
Need a second.
please and thank you, yeah.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
I think that is all of my items. Thank you.
So, thank you, Steve, for your extensive work on the budget. It's us two sheriff's report. Andy.
You have nothing.
Yeah, we'll try to make it quick. On the same line as Chelsea earlier, we do more at the sheriff's office than just arrest people and put them in jail. We also have a community caretaking function. So some of the ladies already left over here. We struggled for a long time here with our mental health as well as our medical issues. I just wanted to show our gratitude to them, Heather Curtis, Heather Ackman, Jamie Bottle, for what they do for us at the jail. And this Roscoe, I don't know a lot about this program, but we're fully in support of it because I certainly believe that anytime that we can have people invested in our community, supporting and giving back to those people that need in our community, we're better off than trying to do it from outside. So 100% support that, and I hope and pray that we get those folks in our jails so we can provide this service at a start foundation while they're in our custody. That's why our jail administrators serving on that. So they get that start in jail and move out of jail and hopefully get the resources they need to continue their recovery and even the mental health recovery that they need. So just want to express through our gratitude. I know our correctional officers definitely have seen a difference in what they provide for us compared to what it used to be. So definitely a positive and a plus. Thank you all for what you do. Only thing else I'd talk about is the radio project. Everybody's aware of that. It's a large project that we got going in Richland County. We have made our first payment to Global at $338,000, I think, to start purchasing equipment. We're in the process of, getting contracts together. I have verbal commitments from 4 locations in the county, not in the city, but outside the county. We need 5 locations, but we got 4 verbal commitments, locations. Contract is put together. Chelsea's reviewed it. I think she's okay with the contract. So I'm gonna try to start sending them out this week, or if not this week, the first of next week, trying to get signed contracts. Now, 3 of the 4 locations have told us that they will not charge us, for the service. The 4th is indicated they might or will. So we're gonna work through that and see if there's other locations or what we have there. Still working on the 5th location up in German Township. But I think hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have our 5 locations squared away, and Global has to have that in order to get the FCC license. They have to have those exact locations where these repeaters are hooked up. So moving forward, we're getting closer. Hopefully by the end of the year, we're actually got our sites identified, and Global's got the equipment, and maybe they'll start, look forward maybe by hopefully the end of the year versus spring, that we have the system up and running. With that, what else to discuss? If you all have some questions for the reports we submitted, I'll be happy to answer. No, that will be it.
Sheriff, if I can ask, when you get your repeaters up and going, let us know that your 911 addresses, we can get them scheduled on the policy.
Yes. And there's still some discussion, I guess, yet on that, because we got 2 repeaters per site. One is an analog repeater for the fire department countywide, and one is a repeater digital for P25 for the sheriff's office countywide. And there's some discussion on who's gonna provide the repeater system. There'll be city some and then county some, but yes, absolutely, we'll let the insurance know whenever that decision is made and when they're up for certain. Absolutely, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Andy. State's Attorney's report? All right, thank you. Animal control?
Yeah, Andrea could not be here. She has 5 dogs currently related to a court case. And 1 non-court dog was rescued on Tuesday. She was able to get that one.
Thank you, Cindy. Gets us down to highway business. Danny?
I had a proposal from, contractor coming in and crush and screen asphalt millings for us. We have a, federal safety grant that's been awarded to the county a couple of years ago to put paved asphalt shoulders on the road, Route 50, north up the Jasper County Road. And we plan to be ready to, have a bid letting in April on that project. The bid letting will be in Springfield, the state bid letting. We're gonna add approximately 15,000 tons of asphalt to build those shoulders. In order to get the ideal cross-section on the shoulders for safety enhancement, we need to add about 3,000 tons of material in above and beyond the asphalt. It's gonna be a lot more economical to do that in advance of the contract with our asphalt millings. So I brought the proposal from, the contractors located just south of Vincennes. They do the crushing around here. This would get the millings crushed and screened. We have a very large stockpile of millings. This would not begin to crush them all, but it's enough to correct the shape of the shoulders. Then I'm working on getting a proposal from a contractor to haul and spread them. The county crew would do the traffic control, we do the flagging and put up the signs, we, load the material out of the county stockpile. So it's a bigger job than we can just do with our crew. Need help to do it, but it's gonna be, when it's all said and done, we're gonna have $25 a ton invested in getting the shoulder material put down there. We're anticipating, if we try to include this with the construction project, it's gonna be more like $60 a ton when it gets bid on this federal aid construction project. So
gonna be a little bit more economical, plus doing it in advance, it will make the, work of, putting the shoulder, the asphalt shoulders in easier. So what I'd like permission to, accept the proposal, and, we would fund this out of the highway budget, and with, caveat not to exceed $30,000 cost. 30,000 is the magic number where we have to bid. So on this proposal, we had to crush 3,200 tons. That should be enough. That would keep us right under that bidding threshold. Now, the proposal for the load and spread and roll the shoulders may be a little more. That's why I'm going to actually get bids on that. I'm going to have Corey put an advertisement up on the website, put an advertisement in the newspaper and get bids and come back in November for that. But we could have this all set up and do it in November and get it taken care of. I need permission to accept, there's money in the budget to pay for this work on the crushing side. I just need permission to accept the proposal with the caveat not to exceed $30,000.
So move.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor? We
All
got
right.
discussion.
Well, I was gonna ask, this is gonna hit this fiscal year or next fiscal year?
We're gonna do it, the work, we're gonna crush the millings in November and have spread on the shoulders to get some of the correction already taken care of on the shoulders. And then the bid letting for the asphalt paving of the shoulders will take place we're anticipating April, so the construction will be in the summertime. But the shoulders drop off a lot. Dennis lives out there, he knows what I'm referring to. We pull the shoulders back up a couple times a year, but the shoulders drop off so severely that even with all this asphalt we're gonna put on there, there's not enough to correct everything.
But as far as the 30,000, up to 30,000, that expense will hit this year or next year?
Well, I anticipate that if they do the crushing in November, if they got it done before our bid letting, and I think they will, then it can come out of this year's budget. And there's money that I could work out of this year's budget.
Okay.
Crushing. But now the spreading would come out of next year's budget.
Okay, all right, that's what I want to clarify. Thank you. All right.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Share this confirmation letter I got. State of Illinois Department of Transportation made available $400 million in grant funds this summer for we can apply, local agencies apply. I applied for 6 projects. We got 1 funded. And this is the confirmation, and Mark's not here tonight, but we get him a copy of the paper.
Yeah.
I'm gonna point this out, there'll be more details that come, but the project is the Mount Gilead Fox River Bridge project that's been in work here. The holdup has been wetlands, and there is a source of credits in Wayne County at a wetland bank. The credits run $75,000 to $80,000 an acre. So there's a place now where we can get purchase credits, and the state's gonna make available to us the money to purchase the wetland credits. So the plan is, over the next 6-8 months, this all gets worked out. We will buy the credits we need, and we will overcome that obstacle that's been holding us up for 20 years. Once the wetland credits are resolved, then we will go into negotiating for easements to get the extra right of way that we need for that bridge project. But this has been the holdup for 20 years, just the wetlands. The state's gonna make the money available for us to buy credits to mitigate the damage to the wetlands out there. Right, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank you
Danny.
for getting that grant.
Appreciate that. Okay. Board committee reports. IT man.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. The website continues to be utilized heavily, seeing tons of traffic there. Yeah, interesting. So the operating system upgrades, so that's just the whole part of, the servers are going to be kind of over their age, but we're keeping moving forward with those discussed. You have a bunch of work stations that we're going to be installing for the year that are already bought, paid for. That's all I've got.
Can you tell what pages, specific pages they go to on our website, or when you're tracking
Yes,
activity?
yeah, I sure can. So the most heavily utilized would be the clerk's page. So that's the clerk's front page as well as the records pages. Second on the list is the treasurer, and the third is the assessor. Everybody else is probably 2-3% of traffic line. So, or on line, sorry, separate. So each office. So those are the 3 most heavily used.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Corey. Shelley,
Shelley.
you got anything?
What is it called? I'm sorry. Senior Tour Day?
Yeah.
So
It's
For high school seniors.
Yeah. Class, they divide up in groups of 4, and they take 4 buses. They rotate, so each bus tours a different business on that day. And then we work with the high school guidance office on this, and student lunch is provided. Joe's, 845 First National Bank, and Coast Bank. And it's really to expose them to businesses in town, but also as potential employment opportunities. So that's this Thursday. Beside grants, I know I mentioned that they started that program in the spring or early summer. I've received 2 reimbursement requests already, and I know some others are complete, so that seems to be going well. I think 5 total that are doing projects. And then the invitation that you got for October 30th, if you have a question about what that program is, feel free to give me a call or email me. I know some of the board members to go to the investor meeting in March, and they talked about that some, so maybe you might have answers to it. But anyway, it would be great if you would come. So if you've got questions, let me know.
All right, thanks, Shelley. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move on. Any old business? New business, we need to approve contract with Eagle View for flights in 2026 and 2029. Anybody have any discussion around that?
The company that we've been using for a few years, I did look up what we paid them for this year just ending. We paid them $27,837, and they're proposing an increase, 8.5% increase, with $30,226. So it's a slight increase. But I guess it's just a program and a company we've been using for several years, just a renew their contract. It says 6 years, so I think I read we're canceling from year to year. Term of this agreement will commence on the effective date and remain in effect for so long as they exist in open order form for a period of 12 months thereafter. So this price is good for 6 years, but review it from year to year. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Does anyone need executive session?
Just a brief one, yes, just a update on the 2 items there. I motion to go into executive session to discuss purchase real estate and labor union negotiation status.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.